Welcome back. You are still watching GBS News 9. Kenyans have often been encouraged to take their children for coding, programming and robotic lessons to enable them to dive into the impact of early coding education and compete effectively in the global market where interest is now in innovators and problem solvers. The government approved a new curriculum for primary and secondary school students that will teach coding. Kenya is among the first group of African countries to implement the curriculum. The move will put Kenyan students on an equal footing with students in developed countries. The inclusion of coding in the competency-based curriculum is in line with the government's effort to promote technology use through the digital literacy program. Coding or programming involves creating instructions for a computer to follow. In Kenyan classrooms, learners are taught the Python programming language. This coding process enables computers to perform tasks such as calculations, displaying text, interacting with websites, and communicating with other computers. The partnership extends to graduates, with Google committing to creating a job pipeline and providing opportunities for remote digital gigs and global project contributions. And now, our big conversation begins right now. Our focus tonight is on the evolving landscape of coding education for children. We'll dive into the impact of early coding education, review some of the center's notable achievements, and discuss the best ways to engage kids in coding. Don't miss this change to understand how coding is shaping the future. And who better to have this conversation than Mr. Raphael Nyongesa, who is a team leader at Skill Masters Africa, Kenya's leading coding for kids training center. Remember to keep your comments and questions coming in through our SMS line 21144 and GBS TV Africa on all our social media handles. Good evening, Mr. Nyongesa, and welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you, madam.
And now, tell us about Skills Master and the role you play there.
Okay, as you mentioned earlier, I'm Raphael Nyongesa.
Yes.
I'm the team leader of Skills Masters Africa. Skills Masters Africa is a coding for kids program whereby we look at how to engage kids at a young age, preparing them for the technology era. That is, we train them on how to code at a very early age, and we focus on the age between 6 up to 18 years old.
Mr. Nyongesa, before we go further, maybe
Yes.
you can start by telling us some of your success stories that you have had.
Okay, Skills Masters is 1 year old. Actually, this month we are celebrating 1 year of Skills Masters, and we've had a lot of success stories. We've had coding boot camps for kids. Like last year, we had a coding boot camp in the month of November at Park University. And we've had also online coding boot camps during the month of April and August. Then we've had an opportunity to see what these kids can come up with. Like, for example, we are organizing the first ever coding competition in the Republic of Kenya. And it's coming up on 21st of September at Strathmore University. And you look at what kids are preparing to bring on board, it's really amazing. Actually, our kids have opportunity. Our kids have potential. We only need to give them support for them to explore the coding world. Yeah.
Now, for someone out there listening to this conversation and listening about coding and listening about coding with kids, as many know, concentration for kids is usually very low.
Yes.
How do you achieve this?
Okay, at Skills Masters, we say that we do coding with fun. We ensure that a child, we know that a child has a very low concentration span, but we must capture the attention of this child so that he or she can enjoy the learning process. So we ensure that we put our learning, our teaching model in a way that it's much of fun. Like, for example, we do much of what we call block coding, whereby a child can be able to see, I'm creating a game, and within a very short time, he's able to see the game running. So it makes this child to concentrate even for the 2 hours that we always allocate for each lesson. Yes.
And now, maybe for some of us who maybe underwent the 844 system,
Yes.
and we have seen a lot of learning. We learned how to make juice through home science. Why is this coding different, and why is coding important for children to learn at that young age?
Okay, the future is digital. We can't run away from the fact that we are in a digital era. Even right now, most of the things that you do, you are really looking at them from the perspective of online digital world. Now, our children have been born in an era whereby we should prepare them for that technology era. So unlike us, who are all basically, we didn't know much about technology. These kids have been born at a time whereby technology is the in thing, and therefore we need to guide them on how to utilize those digital devices. Like, for example, right now, when I go to my home, my son will be all over my phone. My son will be all over my laptop and tablet. So I need to find a way of how to harness the opportunities and the potential in these children so that they can embrace technology as we go into the future. As it has always been said, that at some point at independence, Kenya was on the equal footing with some of the countries like Singapore. So are we going to allow these countries to continue opening the gap with us? No. We need to find a way, and that's why Skills Masters has come on board to find a gap which we are filling so that we can be able to train our children to be at par with other people when they are at the age of 18 so that they can be able to compete effectively on the job market. Yes.
And just listening from that, when it comes to coding, kids need gadget. You mentioned your phone, and maybe they need a laptop. Now we are thinking about families maybe in Kibra or other societies that are not as privileged, and maybe others who don't even have access to electricity. Moving forward, do you feel there is a balance in the country in terms of the effectiveness of the education?
Actually, there is a problem with CBC as it is. CBC is a good curriculum. At grade 4 and 5, a child is supposed to start doing coding. Actually, in CBC, we have what you call scratch programming. Now, you realize that there is a school, like a school which I went to in Bungoma County, Nasianda Primary School, a village school, which doesn't even a teacher who knows how to use those devices that were supplied to those schools. It's a problem. So at Skills Masters, apart from just training kids on coding, we are also trying to do a partnership with the Ministry of Education so that we can be able to find a way of training teachers to handle these kids at that level in those rural areas. One, we have a problem with devices. That's why at Skills Masters, in our trainings right now, we are providing devices. When you go to a school, we go with our own devices because we realize that there are some schools, even in slum areas, which don't have access to those devices. So we have devices to support that. And also, we are looking at teachers in those public schools which were supplied by the devices by the government, yet they don't utilize them. How can we be able to train these teachers so that they can properly utilize those devices? Yes.
And now let's get to the details of coding itself.
Yeah.
I think in the review I did mention the use of languages like Python. Yeah. Are there specific languages that work for children?
Okay. We have different languages, and our experience working with kids has been they love Python so much. Now, what happens is that we start off with what we call block coding. Block coding, basically, somebody has decided to change those text codes in Python into a block, whereby now a child just drags a block, puts it there, and then the computer interprets those blocks into the commands. So children are really enjoying Python for their coding, and we've made it very simpler for us. At Skills Masters, we found a balance whereby a child can be able to transition from block coding into text coding, and it's real fun. Actually, we are really seeing what these kids are doing, and the way they are doing it, we feel it's the right thing to do.
Now, just mentioning that, maybe you can give us a mirror situation for a beginner.
Yes.
How do they start, and at what point do we say now this person is an expert?
Okay. Let's assume a child of 6 years. He's joining our classes. He has never done much. Probably he comes from a rural setup or a slum setup whereby they've not had an opportunity to interact with the devices. First of all, we introduce them to the basics of the computer so that this child should be able to understand how to operate the computer. Opening the computer, switching it on and switching it off, being able to navigate through the different the different windows. Then from there, they should be able to know how to use the keyboard. Because when you're doing coding, basically much of the work is going to be on the keyboard. So once we teach them through, we take them through those basics, then we can now be able to start showing them how to utilize a specific coding platform. Like for example, we are really using Scratch and Pictoblocks, which is very easy for use for kids. So immediately we train them on the basics using the keyboard, understanding the parts of the screen, then we can comfortably go into the block coding. And then now from block coding, we graduate them into text coding. Now, whatever we trained them, like for example, they were creating a game using block codes. When we graduate them into text code, we create a situation whereby they can see, oh, I created this using the block. Kumbe, this is exactly what it meant in text coding. So it builds that appetite to know more as they continue learning.
I want to specifically know at what point do we call them experts and how many languages do they need to know?
Okay. We have people who can specialize in one language, and we have people who have an appetite of learning more and more. So we have a child who is interested in Python only, and probably this person is looking at going into robotics. You see, robotics and Python will always work together quite easily. So this person may not really need to go into other programming languages, like for example, HTML, the web designing, etc. So we shall encourage this learner to specialize in that area. And with the time, they can be specialists. Like I know of a child who is in grade 6 in one of the schools that we are working with, and this child, I can comfortably say that he's a specialist in Python coding, because he can code for a robot from the scratch to the end, and the robot works. Yes.
Now, this learner can code for a robot,
Yes.
and you have seen, like, other than these technical skills, what are other benefits of coding for this learner?
Okay. One, apart from gaining the technical skills, coding allows a learner to be a problem solver. You see a problem, you must identify an issue, because when you're doing coding, you are looking at a project. Just like any other project, you must identify a gap in the society which you want to address. So these learners should be able to develop critical thinking skills. We assist them to develop critical thinking skills so that they can be able to identify the gaps in the society. Then after critical thinking, they come to the problem solvers. We train them to become problem solvers. You've seen a problem, so you must try to come up with a solution to it. Then another key thing that we train our kids is to do collaboration. They must collaborate. They must work together. They must learn to work together, because you've seen a problem and you on your own, you may not be able to find a solution to it. But if you work as a team, you will be able to come up with that solution. So those are some of the soft skills that we teach, apart from our key target being teaching coding as a technical skill. We train our kids on critical thinking, problem solving skills, collaboration. Okay, so those are the other skills that we try to impart to our learners. Yes.
I think as we have continued this conversation, there's something that we have left out that a lot of people have concerns about. At what age do we say now this child can start learning coding? What age do we start this learning?
Okay, in our case, we are starting working with kids at 6 years. At least this is a child who can comprehend whatever the instructions that you give, and can also easily understand how to use a computer or a device. So at the age of 6, a child can be able to learn coding. Yeah.
Now, for a parent who is watching this, what future opportunities does a child learning coding at an early age, what future opportunities does this child stand to have that other children who are not learning coding do not have?
Okay, learning coding at an early age opens a whole set of opportunities for our learners, for our children, because we give them an opportunity to expand their skills, not only just in the academic field whereby they go to class to learn the normal subjects that we know, but we are giving them an opportunity to gain an extra skill which they can be able to monetize if guided properly. And that's what we are doing at Skills Masters, that all our learners, with the projects that they come up with, we should be able to monetize them so that they can be able to earn out of their learning skills, from the skills that they've learned from us.
Thank you very much for the wonderful insights. And of course, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to coding and for kids as well. But sadly, time is not on our side. Maybe in 2 minutes, you can give us your parting shot.
Okay. I want to talk to our parents outside there. And we have an opportunity to equip our children with this skill, preparing them for the 21st century. We must ensure that they are able to get the skills properly, and we at Skills Masters, we are ready to ensure that they get what they deserve to have. And most importantly, we have an opportunity this year for the first time. In Kenya, we are having the first ever coding competition. We've christened it actually Skills Masters Code Festival. It will happen on 21st of September 2024 at Strathmore University. We are encouraging our parents to visit our website, skillsmasters.co.ke, to register their children for this code festival. You can always call our office line to make any consultation if you want to register your child for this code festival at 0704 010502. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nyongesa, for your wonderful insights. And I'm certain that anybody who didn't have a clue what coding is, they have got bits of information from you, and you're looking forward to having more and more in terms of coding for kids.